Gentleman yields back. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes to ask questions. Appreciate you all being here on a really important topic. I can't tell you how many constituents I talk to that have been victims of financial scams, problems, in particular pig butchering, where people are integrating romantic relationships online, purported romantic relationships online, and then delving into a financial side. Later today, I'm holding a hearing in particular as it relates to artificial intelligence and AI. There's a lot of positive things that can be done by AI. There's also a lot of challenges. I just want to touch on how some of the challenges affect this area about financial challenges. Mr. Bedna, if I can ask you in particular how bad actors are utilizing AI in this way, and then I want to get into questions following that about the ways that we can utilize technology or AI itself to prevent those.
Sure. There's been a couple themes here today, and I'll just reiterate some of those. I think it's the ability to create very realistic and legitimate-looking phishing emails, phishing texts. We're worried about agentic AI that's going to be able to act on its own, can access personally identifiable information, can deepfake voices to make it sound like someone else, and then interact with either banks or other companies who are trying to defraud them. And I think that the scams part of thing is really the tragic piece, in that we're now seeing romance scams being committed because they can change their visage, they can change their voice, and so it could be someone from overseas of a completely different race and pretend to be someone else and interact and try and build that romance scam, build that trust over time so that someone loses their life savings.
And how are financial services firms navigating these new choppy waters?
Well, I think there's a lot of challenges that we have in terms of the phishing. We've got one thing in place. There's a thing called .bank where you can actually register your bank's internet domain, and it's less resistant to phishing simply because no one else, you have to be a financial services to put your website on there. We've got activities, anti-phishing advertising campaigns such as Banks Never Ask that's out there trying to inform consumers. So I think a lot of it is really on consumer education to try to keep people aware of
So the consumer education, what the companies are doing, should our regulators be reviewing whether or not companies are utilizing some of these anti-fraud protection tools?
We would love to partner with the regulators on a consumer education campaign.
Let me build on some of the AI with you, Mr. Bednowitz, if I can. Mr. Bedna just referenced AI being used to duplicate voice, to duplicate images. I think that's one of the things that's uniquely challenging. You can think of fraud against calling maybe a grandma or a grandpa, imitating the voice of a grandson or granddaughter saying that they need assistance, taking that grandparent fraud to the next step. It's uniquely challenging, especially if that sure sounds like your grandson or granddaughter who needs quick help. And of course, it's a criminal on the other end saying, send $100 to this location. How should we be thinking about that or navigating against that?
So there are two ways. There's a low-tech way, which is teaching people to be vigilant and just using safe words. So across families, if you have a safe word, which is a unique, nonsensical word that no one is writing down, then if someone is actually having a threat, then they can use that safe word and you know that's actually that person on the other end or not. Now, the more high-tech solutions, my company, others in the private sector are building, using AI like you talked about, to help defend against that type of AI, to detect deepfakes, to detect scams and fraud, whether it's coming through video, through voice, through email. So that is absolutely a front in the battle that we are tackling. AI is also, though, in the background, what Mr. Benda didn't talk about, it's less flashy, but AI allows criminals to take information that's out there in the dark web, that's out there in social media sites, data brokers, and create profiles of you to either steal your identity or to target you with very personalized scams.
And to do it in an incredible, with incredible volume in a way that was not possible previously. Come to you to close this out, Ms. Griffith. How do you think we should be navigating the downside risk of the AI?
Thank you very much for the question. And one of the first things that comes to mind to me is to make sure that our law enforcement is able to use those same tools. When we think about the kinds of data that are available, both in terms of what the private sector has due to consumers reporting to them, as well as the kind of data Paul mentioned, the SARS database, the ability for our law enforcement to deploy AI as well, to query those databases and construct cases and go after criminals at scale is a critical element.
I think what you're saying to bring us home is there's downside risk of AI for sure, but there's also massive upside potential to address these frauds, and making sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater is going to be incredibly essential as we dive into AI. We'll be having a hearing looking at that later today. Appreciate you being here. I yield back and now recognize the